Welcome to episode 11. This is actually a recorded episode from October 6th with my buddy Parker Poteet. So this was before I even went all in on the process and the podcast. And yeah, it's an episode that kind of shows the growth of how far it's come from right now. But super insightful conversation with Parker. We dive into he's a homeowner at 21 years old, just got engaged back when we filmed this, and then went from played JUCO 3 years to realize his goal of playing Division I baseball at Mercer. And so yeah, tune into this episode. Super excited for it, and I watched a little bit of it going back. A lot of growth from then, but crazy. The process wasn't even what I was pursuing full time. So crazy to see the growth. I've grown exponentially spiritually wise as well as personally. So tune into the episode. Let's go. I'm your host, Palmer Karen, and the whole thing with the process, it's the process of me gaining knowledge and gaining wisdom. My guests are going to provide the knowledge and the wisdom, and I'm doing work at the same time to gain knowledge and wisdom. Process of 2 to 3 years down the line, now I'm providing knowledge and wisdom along with the guest. Welcome to the Process Podcast. Welcome back to the second episode of the Process Podcast with your host, Palmer Karen. Today we got a very special guest, one of my best friends, Parker Poteet. We are back in Atlanta, Georgia, and I actually get to celebrate his engagement yesterday.
Yeah, excited to be here. I thought this would be a good conversation between us, so I was looking forward to it. I know we talked about it, so.
Yeah, we've been planning. Parker's done a lot of big things at just the age of 22. We can get into those. But first I wanted to hit on, it's pretty fresh, but just kind of the relationship and what a relationship based in your faith and on a relationship with Jesus looks like and how you can kind of navigate that.
Yeah, that's a great talking point. I think the first thing I'll start off with is we've talked about before, like with our faith, Christianity. That was something that I kind of had to get more into in high school. I kind of lost it. I wasn't very in depth in it. And now at my time where I am now, and from when I started dating Lauren going into college, she helped bring me a lot closer with my faith. She actually was the one who bought me the Bible I use. And right now, I don't think I even told you this. We're doing like a Bible. It's like a Bible study plan where we're reading. It's usually like 3 passages a day, and she's got a book that kind of outlines what we just read in those passages. Because sometimes with Christianity, it's so hard to understand what you're actually reading in the Bible, and so it kind of helps you understand what you're actually reading. And we try to do it every day for the most part that we can, but life gets busy. I know with me, school, working part-time, it's tough some nights. Some nights I'm just like, if I do it, I'm not going to be able to like be in depth with it and understand it. But that's one thing I've had to work on. I'm sure you have, just making sure that you give that time for that, because it's so important once you do. Once
it can get lost in like everything, but
Exactly.
At the end of the day, it's like the number one thing.
Yeah,
it is the
for
priority,
sure.
But it's easy to just like gloss over it. Or for me, it's like I'm really good at like praying. Like praying is like kind of where I would say I'm very strong in my spiritual journey, but reading the word is very difficult, especially like you said, it's hard to interpret everything that's going on. And that's something I've been looking into recently is getting a study Bible, getting on a plan. I really want to read from cover to cover.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't really know how to go about that. And it's like, I'm new in my faith. Some people, they've been in their faith for years, 20 years, 30 years. It's like, for me, it's less than 2 years, and I'm growing so much with people around me, but it's hard. It's a journey. Hard. It takes a lot of commitment. And I think the biggest things are having the community, prayer, and then the word. Like that's what a relationship with Jesus is built on.
Yeah, for sure. And I think another thing with that, like you just said, it's hard. And especially starting out, just because I would say I am newer to getting in depth into faith like you, the biggest thing with that is understanding that it's not going to change in a day. You're not just going to one day just be able to figure it all out. It's a constant relationship. The best story I have with that is Lauren's older sister's husband. All right, so he actually, I don't know if I've talked to you about him. So he actually, similar to me, he had to get back into his faith. He got back into his faith a couple of years ago, and he is very knowledgeable on it. He has taken it and ran with it. He's accelerated his faith with God, his relationship with God. So he had this thing, and one night God spoke to him. I don't want to go, that's his story. But he actually has a book out with his mom, and they outlined it in the book. But his relationship with God he started getting back into his faith. And one night he went and said something to his wife, Jessica. At the time it was his fiance. maybe it was his girlfriend, I can't remember. But he said, God spoke to me. He told me I was healed. Well, he ended up going to the doctors a couple of weeks later, or maybe it was a month, and they told him, we don't know what happened. There's no explanation, but you don't have it anymore. Um,
Yeah, and it was, what was it?
it was some he with food. He had to drink these shakes because his body couldn't process like enzymes. It would his throat it would like close up, and it's amazing. I'm so happy to see that, and he's helped me and Lauren so much with our faith. And it's a crazy story because it's almost like it's kind of hard to understand when somebody tells you stories like that because you're not experiencing it, but you have to kind of put yourself in their shoes and kind of just understand how surreal it is. And I think that story alone has helped me understand that God can work so many miracles in your life as long as you got to have a relationship with Him and trust that He's there in everything you do.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes it's hard. Like I saw him from Tampa, and it's like you see the hurricane, you see the destruction, and it's like it's easy to be like, oh well, why would God do this? But
Yeah,
God gives the power to the church for the people to go help everyone
yeah,
out. God's it's like we're God's hands and feet, and like that was on our service this morning where it was talking about the amazing things that people of the church are doing. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, it's like and just in my life and talk about this in episode one, but you know God kind of helped me deal with the different things that I didn't know how to deal with, and I felt so alone dealing with on my own. So that was like the OCD that I like
yeah,
experience on like a day to day basis, and like obviously I still deal with it, but with having God on my side, never feeling alone, it's like just just a simple prayer can like set the day off in a much better step, and that comes like it goes to gratitude too,
yeah,
just like the gratitude of waking up in the morning and being I woke up with another day to breathe another I got to wake up again like that alone. If you can start off your day looking at it like that
yeah.
versus you get up frantically and
You're just like, oh,
you're
it's
just like
another day.
another day,
Yeah,
or you go to put your head on the pillow at night and all you want to do is sleep. Because there was a point during my life where all like it was kind of during where I didn't understand what the OCD was. I didn't really know, and all I wanted to do was sleep because it was the only time I could find peace.
right.
And then now it's like all I want to do is not sleep.
Yeah,
Like
that's right.
I'm so excited to like get up and do every day
Yeah,
because God's with me and I have such like a clear vision and I know
yeah,
what like my purpose is, my passions are. And
right.
so it's like I'm literally making sure, hey, I need to get 8 hours of
Yeah,
sleep so I can fully function and do these things,
yep,
but take it step by step. But I'm so excited to wake up in the morning where versus the only time I could find peace was when I was sleeping, which is
yeah,
it's a pretty crazy thing to say. And honestly,
it is.
um,
But
that God saved me from like that mindset and having gratitude too, because God's gonna work, but He's not gonna work if you're not like He's gonna work. You're gonna see it more profound when you're doing the work too,
mhm,
because a lot of people are gonna run away from their problems. They're gonna run away from the things that God wants you to face. But it's when you dig in your heels and you actually like face those things that you're gonna see the growth in yourself.
yeah, yeah. And to speak on that, I mean, growing up, especially in high school, it's everyone's like, oh, it's Monday, start of the week. It's they just got to get through the week to the weekends, and that's one thing I think I've had to try to learn in college, and I'm still learning it, especially because my schedule now. Monday is an opportunity to do something productive with your life and grow in your life. It's the beginning of a week. So it shouldn't be something that you don't look forward to and you're just trying to get through to it to get to the weekend. It's something that you should take advantage of because you get another week because you never those tomorrow's not promised. It's never promised. It's a
Yeah.
gift, and that's like you were saying with God. I think going back to what you're talking about with the relationship with God, with Lauren, that's one thing we've had to talk about a lot is relationship. God's got to be the center. We're still, of course, working for that. You got to
We on
constantly
too.
work for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You got to work towards that because life is better with somebody in your corner. I've been blessed to have Lauren in my life. She's always been in my corner. Now, hopefully, to the day I die, and
Yeah.
after that. And so, having her in my corner helps. But God is the constant person in your corner, and I think once you understand that and get that, it really helps with everything you do.
Yeah, when both people, I mean, I don't have much experience in like a long term relationship, but when both people have their foundation in God, and then it's going to allow the relationship to reflect like the love that God reflects on each of us.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I guess diving more into that. It's like, um, what makes you guys' relationship successful? Like, it's been 3-4 years.
4 years and a couple months.
4 years and a couple months. Like, what are the things? Because a lot of times it doesn't work out. I've been in relationships, they don't work out, they don't match. Obviously, it comes down to finding the right person.
Mhm.
But once you find the right person, it still might not go the right way. What are kind of the things that you guys do, conversations you have to, foster that successful relationship, loving relationship, like a healthy relationship?
Yeah. So last night at Travis's, it's funny. His dad, Mr. Buchanan, he's awesome person. He always likes to give me advice every time I see him, and he said it perfect. And I guess it's something I've always loved about mine and Lauren's relationship, but I've never really even, I guess, brought it up. And he just asked me, like, how'd you know that was the one? How'd you know it was the right time? And my answer was, I've always felt like she's been the one, and the right time was because I was able to do it finally. Like, though the world is crazy how it is now, money makes the world go round, and so it's just kind of timing, college, school, all of that schedule. But he made the point, to make relationships last, it's all about how much you can enjoy from it. Because he gave me the story. He called his dad. He started working, and he used the phrase "the light at the end of the tunnel." It's hard. Life, especially once you get out of school, you probably know it better than I do. The light at the end of the tunnel just feels like it's just getting further and further away. And along the way, you got to find the light. The light isn't something that you should be chasing. You got to create the light. And he was always saying,
You can't
laughter.
wait for the happiness.
Exactly. Laughter is the key. Enjoy each other, smile, laugh, make sure you're enjoying your time with each other. And I think that's something that's huge in a relationship. Me and Lauren, uh, one big thing that I can say from my side of it is she's always been my escape. If I'm having a bad week, a bad day, whatever it is, when I talk to her, when I see her, when she comes around, everything goes away, all the problems. And that goes back to the team perspective. I got her, she's in my corner, she's got me, I'm in her corner, and it's just that support. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's a friendship, and you got to support your best friend.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's super important, especially you got to have enjoy now, because if you're always waiting, you're never going to be happy.
No.
You can't. It's like the process. It takes the
Yeah.
process. You got to really find enjoyment in it, and it goes back to like dopamine. I know dopamine. Like, if you complete something, you get that hit at the end of it. But the more so like running, for example, we'll use it because it's easy. But you get done, you feel that runner's high, you
Yeah.
get that hit of dopamine. But during it, you hated it. You didn't enjoy it at
Right.
all, or at least. But the more you run and the more that dopamine is going to come at the end, you actually start to get like the dopamine hits while you're running. So someone, it's like, I used to just hate running. It's like now if I'm running with like people or whatever, it's like I just love like the process of running
Mm-hmm.
because of that. And it's so true, because that was what I was doing for a long time, with just, I'd say, my whole life. And it was when I was kind of in the worst spot, and I was waiting. I was like, when I do this, I'll be okay and I can do this.
Right.
Like, for me, it was like, when I figure out this OCD, then I can be happy, and then I can be in a relationship that I want to be in.
Right.
Or then I can be successful and start this business, blah, blah, blah. And so when you have that mindset, you're kind of telling yourself that you're not okay now.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're not going to ever find happiness that way. And don't get me wrong, you're not always going to be happy in life. But if you can find meaning in the moment, that's the biggest part. It's like,
Yeah.
there's going to be grinds, there's going to be tough times. But if you're finding meaning and you're working towards something, then that's where, like, I feel like you can really just enjoy the process.
Yeah. And speaking of that, and going back to kind of your faith with it, I saw this fact one day, and I actually like fact checked it. And I probably need to fact check it again. But it's funny, people talk about being happy, and in the Bible, from my knowledge, my best knowledge, is the Bible doesn't say use the word happy ever. It always uses the word content. And it talks about being content where you are, but you can still always chase something more. And happiness isn't something that you shouldn't have. You shouldn't just, be content. But it's always like things are going to happen in life. You got to be content with your life and understand that like the things will get better. And it's not something to get down about, because happiness comes in waves, like you said, you're not going to be happy every single second of your life. But it's about being content, understanding that if you just trust the process, and you can find happy moments to enjoy along the way. That goes back to the relationship. It's always great to have somebody in your corner that you can find that happiness with.
Yeah, yeah, and for us, it's faith, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're trying to control every single thing here or there, then there's zero faith.
Right.
And that's something I've been finding. I talked to kind of like my mentor Wayne yesterday. We had just talked about this a little bit right before this, but what I was kind of going about is I made this decision to quit my job. I wasn't happy. It was draining me. I wasn't getting a lot of value from my role as a financial analyst. I didn't love that, but also like the company, I just didn't fit in at the time. And I've always wanted to start my own business and didn't really think it'd be starting right now. I'm actually starting my marketing agency, which I've talked about in episode 1. But everything I'm doing, I have no source of income right now, and so I'm very like, oh, I gotta get money. I gotta get money. I'll be okay when I get money. But for me, a driver, I've never really looked at money as something that I desire, but it's like a means to everything else, right? And so I'm being so frantic that I need to get money. I need to get income now just because I want to be like financially free and time free. But I'm going about it in like I was going about it in a frantic way, in a way that I wasn't like taking in the process. I was just trying to rush through everything. And I'm going to miss a lot on the way. So when I was talking to Wayne, he was just like, look, man, you just got to slow down. It's like, just in everything you do, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you drive, because you're going to miss something. And a lot of the times, his comparison was he was looking at when he used to drive race cars. And if you go fast into a turn, you're actually going to be worse off than someone who goes slow into a turn and doesn't have to hit the brakes and they can accelerate through after. They're going to make going in slow, cautious, and like really taking in the process, knowing where you're at is going to put you a lot further along than someone who rushes into something and has to readjust after. So that's where I'm kind of focusing now is let's just slow down. Let's yeah, there's things like that I need to take care of, but having the faith, because I'm working with zero faith. I'm really just trying to control every part of the wheel. Whereas if I'm like truly praying, I'm truly letting God work, it's like I'm still gonna do the actions. That's you have to do the actions yourself. You have to have intention, but it's not trying to cram things into the day. It's slowly going about it, just doing it like a methodical way, you know?
Yeah. So off that point, I kind of want to ask you, because I don't even think we've even talked about this. Do you have a timeline? Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I guess, especially now with you being done at Circle and moving on and trying to get your brand taking off and everything, marketing, and fitness, social media.
Yeah, so I've actually been doing a lot of work lately through a book called Rebel. So it kind of helps you lay out your framework of your goals, your dreams, what like 3 years from now looks like, and what that looks like. So I went down and I wrote down 50 of my goals, and I picked the 10 most important to me, and then I actually put meaning towards all of them. And so then I went through, and the goal I was honestly like, this is the goal that I want, or like this is my top goal was I want to be financially free, time free. And that's just due to a lot of other circumstances that will open up the opportunity for the other goals. So for me, it's like having a family and being able to fully be there and be like a loving husband, a loving father to those people is like huge. And same with like being able to work in my passions and add value to others people's lives through fitness, through business, entrepreneurship, mindset. Like those are my big things. And that's all going to stem from being able to utilize my time and resources how I want to. So that is kind of the overlying goal. But in 5 years, it's like I'm starting this marketing agency. I'm new into marketing. Obviously, I get the principles, but I've never actually started my own agency. As you know, you kind of feel that imposter syndrome. You're getting started, like, oh, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this. But like I said, it's taking it slow. It's learning one step at a time. As I create the company, create the domain, create the company name. Dive into my service and my niche. So I see growing this, scaling it within the next 6 months to a year to over $10,000 a month. That's the goal. But honestly, I could see it going way beyond that. And so I want to grow this. And while I'm doing that, I want to use it to fund the podcast. This is what I love to do. This is like how I feel like I can provide value to other people's lives. Kind of going into the process, the journey, everything that took me to get here, but most importantly, it's going to be the guests, because the guests are going to be the people who provide wisdom, the things I haven't done, and become a better speaker, conversationalist, and really increase my vocabulary and how I can get the audience listening to the conversation and actually getting them engaged with what's going on. And so that comes to getting a full podcast studio. I already have like a plan in my mind of when I get the next apartment, I'm going to have a full studio in like an extra room, like an office. yeah, so going back, so it's like 5 years from now, I see myself hopefully meet the right girl. I think that's more of like it's kind of a faith thing too.
Yeah.
Pray about it, whatever. But have myself fully established financially in time to like where it fits my lifestyle, be able to develop the relationship kind of something that like a relationship as yours is. And that's why, you know, surrounding yourself with people that are like minded or are like doing things that you want to do is so important.
Yeah, it's
And we
huge.
haven't we've talked about like your relationship, but we haven't talked about the things that go into it, like the things that make it successful, healthy, and loving. And that's like, you have that, Will has that. It's like, how do I draw upon those things? Because if you don't surround yourself with those kind of people, it's like
Yeah.
you don't exactly get that wisdom that you don't have.
Yeah. And I don't know too much about a whole bunch of different love stories, relationships, but I think that's one thing that came with mine and Lauren's relationship is neither one of us was looking for a relationship. It just kind of happened, and we just like let it flow. And I think that's the biggest thing is, like you said, just having the faith, whether it's in God and just having the faith in that your life is going to pan out. Like you're going to meet so many people along the way, and just understanding that no relationship is a bad one, because it's all an experience, and you never know who's going to be the right person for whatever means, whether it's a relationship, a work relationship, business relationship. You never know, and I think that's a huge thing is just trusting that process. And like you said before, not rushing things, kind of slowing down, just understanding that it could happen tomorrow or it could happen in 2 years, but trusting that that process will work out in the future.
Yeah, yeah. So people, I've always heard it as people come into your reason or your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And it's like
Yeah.
that's kind of. It's not like I'm saying people like are gonna come in and out
Yeah.
all the time because for me, it's like if I found people with the same values, the same
Right.
foundations, it's like I want those people to be a part of my
Right.
life.
Yeah.
But some people don't work out, but a lot of people that haven't stayed in my life, they've come through and provide me with so much knowledge and like value, and there were good times, and so
Yeah.
it's like you can draw upon that. It's huge. And then what was the other we were talking about with the relationship? Yeah, I guess in 5 years. So that's kind of really where I see myself. I love Tampa. Tampa's amazing, and
Yeah.
that's why the job came in for a reason. It
Yeah.
was kind of a season too, but it brought me down to Tampa. I'm so grateful for the opportunity. I learned a lot, even though it was quick. I wouldn't say I was learning as much at the end. I learned a lot off the bat, but it brought me there for a reason, and I'm super grateful for the experience and
Yeah.
that. Um, and yeah, and so I guess you're finishing up school and the engineering degree at
Yeah.
Mercer. Um, how is that? I know we can dive into the backstory, but we actually met. We met playing baseball. I think 11 years old, and
Yeah.
so we were like best friends up until high school, and then we kind of went our separate ways for all of high school, and then I guess I didn't even believe in like I wouldn't say I wasn't a Christian, but I wasn't like deep into my faith. But honestly, we didn't talk for 4 years, and then like I was like, "Yo, I want to text Parker, see what he's doing."
Yeah.
We went and we played golf, and since then we've developed this relationship, and like now you're one of my best friends. And then you went off to go play JUCO baseball
Hmm.
in Alabama. I went to watch a couple games. You came
Yeah.
up and visited Alabama, and since then, we've been growing our relationship. But you've been growing as a person, as a baseball player, and then moving into the next facet of life.
Yeah.
Whether I think you eventually knew that was the right decision for you, but like kind of lead us to that.
Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, our friendship was, I guess, we had a really good friendship when we were 11. I was always coming over here, baseball, we saw each other. And then, like you said, high school, we just went our separate ways. I got into, well, you also was moved into golf. So we kind of lost, I guess, that baseball aspect of our relationship. And then high school came, I was involved with my friends at my high school, baseball, sports, academics. And I was actually very happy. I forget where I was when you texted me, but I was like, no way, Palmer just reached out to me. And I think I was at home, and
Yeah.
I guess when you called me, I never even thought about it, but I was like, I don't know why we ever stopped like really hanging out or even talking. And from there, it kind of took off. You're somebody that, like you said, like-minded people. You're just a like-minded person. I think our relationship with each other and our friendship has actually been able to bounce back and forth off each other. We've given each other ideas. I've learned from you. You've been able to learn from me. And I think that's a huge thing in a friendship. And you've known me throughout my college. I've known you throughout your college, seen each other grow, going back to like JUCO baseball. You know, that lifestyle from my perspective. Started in Alabama, went to JUCO in Georgia for 2 years. Ended up at Mercer playing last year, and you've seen how that's kind of taken a toll in my life. It's been a blessing and a curse at the same time. But going back to those experiences, no experience is a bad experience. You can always take something away. Like you at Circle, you know, it's not what you wanted to do for the rest of your life, and that's something that you were able to learn. So it's not a bad experience. It's something that taught you, got you into the podcasting, got you to maybe, you know, go and accomplish a marketing, starting a marketing company. It's stuff like that. Baseball, it was something I always saw myself doing since an early age. It was something I always dreamed of, wanted to achieve, and I'm happy to say, like, you know, I was able to achieve. I got to a D1 school. That was always my goal, and just getting there was a huge step in my life because it made me know that if I put my mind to something, even if it doesn't work out the exact way you have your plans in your head for it, you're still able to accomplish that goal. And I think that's super important is when you put your head down and you want to accomplish something, you'll be able to do it. And that's like what we were talking about before. Is that's why you got my support in anything you want to do, because I know that if you put your head down to do something, you're going to be able to do it. And I like to think about myself that same way. And going back to the engineering, you know, that's something I'm in school for a lot longer than I would like to be, but it's something I'm just putting my head down and just trying to get through. So because it's going to get me to where I know I want to be at some point.
Yeah, for sure. And engineering is very tough. It's a tough degree. I've seen people at my school do it, and I've seen you doing it. And not only are you doing engineering right now, but I don't want to hop off the JUCO and the baseball train, but you're also tackling a part-time job. You just got engaged. You're kind of balancing like finances with the part-time job from the internship, and then on top of all that, you bought a house when you were 21
Mm-hmm.
with some help from grandparents and
Yeah.
mom. And it's like, but you're doing everything. You're taking care of the house. I know you moved in and the AC unit fell through the ceiling. It's like all these things are happening,
Yeah.
and they're happening so quick. And you're dealing with this as a 22-year-old with so much on your plate. I've seen it from the outside, and I'm always just making sure, like, yo, are you handling this? And you handle it super well. But also, I want to refer because I remember we were driving to a Braves game, and you're talking about how you had prayed about different things. You're praying about a house, and you're praying about playing baseball at a D1 school. And it's like,
Yeah.
I prayed for all these things, and they all came true. And they don't look exactly like what I prayed for,
Right.
but they all came true,
Yeah.
which is amazing. And you're like, sometimes I got to look around and say, yeah, this is tough. And the AC unit fell through my ceiling, and I'm dealing with this thing and this thing. But I prayed for all these things, and look how like great God is. Like He
Yeah.
provided me these, and so I got to be grateful for these. And obviously, there's a lot of stress, and I think when you can put that stress off on
Yeah.
to like Jesus, He can take that for us
Yeah.
and help us deal with it. It's huge, but it really comes down to like the amazing things you've been able to do. And like, I want you to speak a little bit on being a 21-year-old buying a house, not knowing it, because like I said, when you start anything, when you're doing anything, you have no clue what goes into it. You probably had no clue that you're going to have to pay for the AC unit. You have to do this, you have to do that. And then you had a bunch of crazy shit happen like throughout. Like, I don't even know. It's kind of a sore subject, but you had a cat.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
cat got
a lot of stuff.
like something like you call me like, yo, you'll never believe this happened. And you tell me, and I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah. And so yeah, let's jump into that. So like first I want to start out and say,
Well, and you're a realtor.
Yeah, that too. Got my license. So that's all part of my story, right? And so one big thing with that is I've had great people in my corner. Like you said, my grandparents, you know, I wouldn't have been able to do anything without them. My mom, same thing. She's a big support in my life. But then having Lauren too, you know, even though we weren't married, we're still not married, but it's like just even having her support, knowing that she's saying like you can get through it. If I'm stressed out one night, she's like, look, can't handle it. It's out of your control. You just kind of got to take it for what it is and keep moving and, you know, find the right steps to do whatever you got to do. And so, yeah, so I guess going back to what you said kind of gave me some goosebumps. I got them right now. You said about the praying, that story. I think I told you the story at JUCO at Georgia Highlands. I had a great year my first year there. Thought I was going to get an offer and go play for my third and fourth year of college at a D1 school. Nothing came. for whatever reason it was. I don't want to say anything because I truly don't know why that was.
Yeah.
But my third year didn't have the best season, but I was having a good season through the fall. Talk to my coach, what's going on. That was just stuff that was weighing down on me. I think I took that into me with the spring, and it hurt me more than helped me having that bad outlook rather than maybe having a positive outlook. And that was just like one of those things. I was having a bad spring, and I remember one night nothing was coming from it. I was ready to give up baseball, just kind of go be a student and just keep progressing in my life. And I just remember I think I was taking a shower, and for some reason something came over me, and I just started having a conversation with God. And I told Lauren about this, and she was like, "Wow, that's crazy." When I was telling her, and this was before anything even happened, but I was very specific, and I basically told God, like, I want another opportunity. I want to go play baseball at Mercer. Um, I got my real estate license. That was no matter what college I wanted to go to, I wanted to entertain, buying a house, learning that side of how we have to develop ourselves into being a homeowner. I want to be into real estate, managing a property. And it came true. I mean, 2 weeks later, after I said that prayer, I got the opportunity at Mercer. About a month after that, I started looking at houses, and everything started to play out the way I wanted it to play out. And then along the way, things don't happen that you want. Like you said, things are going to happen, but it's like I asked God for those things. I prayed about them, and He gave them to me. And God is not there to do any harm to you. Like He only wants the best, but those things are not in my control, and it's almost like it's out of his control to the point where he's going to put you in the place you want to be, but you kind of have to go with the process and understand that that process is going to be happening.
Yeah, and it's trials and tribulations that,
Exactly.
like, whether he's putting you through them or not, you're going through them, and he's giving you the characteristics to deal with them.
Exactly.
So you don't even like dealing with the AC. I think it was the first week you called me like, "Yo, my
Yeah.
AC unit." It might have been the first day. I don't even know, but it fell through the ceiling. That's a bunch of like for finances, and it's like
Yeah.
you were getting that down payment down, and you were working with all this, and next thing you know, the AC unit
Yep.
falls through the ceiling, and it's like you had internships in the summer, and obviously you saved up some money, but the last thing you need as a 21-year-old homeowner that just bought a house is AC unit to fall through the ceiling. You
Yeah.
got to clean that up,
100%.
whatever. But you learned from it. You've been grinding on like an internship every summer, making the money. Now you're working while you're doing school and an engineering degree. You're balancing all these things,
Yeah.
and it's like you can either look at it like we've said and like earlier is, oh, I can't wait till I finish this, and this to enjoy it. But it's like it's really being able to find right now and be like, well, I'm pursuing an engineering degree. I have a house that I prayed for. It's like, yes, there's stuff that comes with it, but how can I slow down, take some deep breaths, and just
Right.
really enjoy the process because I'm where I want to be. I'm where what I've prayed
Exactly.
for.
Exactly. And I think the biggest word that has I've had to learn about in my life throughout college, and it's something that I guess we've talked about, but we haven't used the word, is overextending yourself. Um, I think that's something at a very young age it's easy to get into just because we want so much. Like you were talking about with the finances, money is a tool. We use a tool. Ultimately, my goal is to be successful and set myself up to a point to be financially free. I want to be able to help people. I want to be able to do things. That's just something that drives me, and that's a big driver in my life. And along the way, like you said, I'm just having to put my head down and go to work. Like I'm part-time job. It's an opportunity. It's might not be what I want to do, but it's something I feel like I need to do. And at the end of the day, not everybody gets those opportunities. And so I try to not look at it as a negative in my life, but I always try to look at it as a positive. And going back to what we were talking about before, it's hard to do that. It's hard to find the light in everything you're doing just because it wears on you and the happiness isn't there all the time. But it's the things that you have to just constantly remind yourself is it's not a burden that I have to work. I chose to work. I wanted to do that while I was in school. Same with civil engineering degree. I chose it. I want to do it. It's going to set me up, hopefully, to where in my life I can get to the point where I want to be. Want to be financially free. Going back to family, I want to be there for my family. That's something that's very important in my life. Once I have children, once me and Lauren get married, we're working. I don't want work to consume me. It's not so much, oh, I want to make as much money and be at such a high up position. I want to set myself up to where maybe down the road, if I got kids and they want to go in the same industry, I can maybe hand something off to them, and that's if that's what they want to do. Or it's me and Lauren, we ain't got to worry about those money troubles. Shoot, AC unit falls through the roof. Okay, it's just money that can fix it. It's not something you got to stress about in the moment. That's something I've had to work on. I know Lauren tells me it every single day. I call her. She's like, you just gotta take a deep breath, understand you just once it happens, and you gotta just continue the steps to figure it out.
Yeah, it's how you react. It's the you
Exactly.
control how you might feel a certain way, but you control how you react to a situation, and that
Yeah,
can ultimately how you react controls how you feel. And so
exactly.
something that might affect someone and might ruin their day, their week, their month, their year, if you look at it in a different lens, and I know it's hard, it's people are in different circumstances, but if you can just look at it in a different lens and be like, yo, like my AC unit fell through the ceiling. I don't necessarily like I'm tight on finances, but guess what? I'm gonna figure it out. I can't make it go back. And at the end of the day, I'm safe. It could have fallen on my head. Like
Yeah.
you can look at it like it could have fallen on
Right.
my head,
Exactly.
but I'm safe.
Yeah.
The people I love are safe. I have this house. It's gonna be close, but I'm gonna make it work.
Yeah.
And I'm have faith that God's gonna help me make it work and pray for that.
Yeah.
So that's definitely
Exactly.
crazy. I wanted to go into, as you go into this marriage, you go into um kind of this next step of life, this next chapter. I know we talked about this, and it's just like kind of I think a lot of what you want to do is be that figure in your relationships that maybe you kind of miss, and we can dive into it if you want or
Yeah.
not. But I think a lot of people would look at their circumstances, and I think we've talked, and maybe even at one point you did, but you were able to look at your past and I'll let you talk about it more. And it was a lesson that you've learned, and I think is honestly going to make you and is making you such an amazing person. And it's going to make
Thank you.
allow you to be the father, the husband that you've all
Yeah.
like wanted to be, or like that you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, you know the story. I don't want to go too much in the story. It's a long story, but that's probably one of my biggest drives in life is I want to be a very present father. I want to be a very present husband. I don't want to be that person that comes home who's worn out from work and just say, we'll do it this weekend, we'll do it later, and just go to sleep and do my own thing and get on my phone when I get home. And that's something me and Lauren have definitely talked about. She knows that's how I am as a person, and she has a very similar background, and she has a similar understanding, and I think we feed off each other in that sense, and that we both are very confident that when we are parents and when we have our family, that we will be what we each other wants. And I think a lot of that also comes down to trust. Lauren sees how hard I am working right now. She understands that my time is very limited that I have outside of work, school, and everything else I got going on. And that's just that, like we said, that person in your corner, that rock.
She's supporting you, and
Yeah,
like she's like leading. She's not just being there and being like a good relationship, but she's actually adding to what you can do because
exactly.
she's being that person that can push you. And that's something that I'm like thinking right now. It's like I don't have time and like for someone who's not gonna bring out the best in me. And that's
Exactly.
what she's allowing you to do.
Yeah, and it's funny because I actually talked to one of my friends from high school last weekend, and he's in investment banking in New York. And I was talking to him about the job. He's working long hours. I called him at 9 o'clock on a
180
Friday, and
to 100 hours a
yeah,
week.
and he 9 o'clock on a Friday in New York, and he was at the office still working. And I'm just like, dude, holy cow! Like, what's your outlook? Like, where would you want to stay in this industry? Like, where do you want to move into? And he said, I've talked to a couple of my managers and just the people that I'm working with, and the divorce rate for once you stay in that industry and you got a wife, family, he's like, the divorce rate is super high. Like those people, they don't even have a relationship with their kids. He's like, at the end of the day, once I have a family, like this is a good stepping stone, but once I have a family, I want to be present in my kid's life. I want to be present with my wife. I don't want to get divorced 3 times. That's not something that I would want to do. And when he said that, it made so much sense. There's certain parts in your life where it's important to work hard and you're going to have to make some sacrifices to get to where you want to be. But at the end of the day, you should never let that affect anything that is more important than being successful in your career, making money. It's at the end of the day, we're all going to die. And what's important is not how much money you have. Like you're going to your grave. It's the love you're able to share, the memories you're able to create, and the relationships you have with your family, friends, and everybody else.
What people remember you for.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's definitely like all goes back to, money. Money does make the world go round as much as it's just a number on a screen or a piece of paper, but it makes the world go round, and it's very easy to get wrapped up in that, and a lot of people do.
Hmm.
And you look at some of the most successful people, and I'm not saying I don't want to be like those people, but if you pick out people like Tiger Woods, he
Yeah.
was the best golfer ever, and what came from that, he sacrificed his relationships with his family, his wife, his kids.
Yeah.
Kobe, like I know Kobe didn't have the best from family relationships either,
Yeah.
or you just look at all those people and you're like, what are you doing it for? And they're built different in a different sense where it's just like one thing,
Yeah.
but that's not. It's like there's a lot. It's hard to find balance in life,
Yeah.
but you have to realize what drives you and what is actually important to you. Because if you don't understand that, you don't have a solid ground and a community around you, then it's easy to get lost up and, oh, I'm making this money, and you start to forget about what actually matters. Because for me and you, and for a lot of people, it's like you're gonna say, I want to make X amount, but guess what? You really don't care about how much you make. You just want to be financially and time free to spend the time doing your
Right.
passion, or
Exactly.
spend whatever your actual purpose in life is, and you feel like God's put you on this earth to do.
Yeah. And those are actually two great examples, even though, we ain't got a personal relationship with them. We just know what the media is sharing with us. Tiger Woods, Kobe. It's funny when you look at them early in their career, Tiger Woods, you know, his story, it's crazy. He's got kids, and look at him now. He's older. He's had way more life experiences at such a young age. He was grinding. He had the mentality like he was built different. He was a competitor, and that's what he wanted to do. Kobe, same thing.
They did it. He
They
did
did
it.
it.
Yeah.
And it's like when they both got older, it's like they realized what really mattered to him. Kobe got way more with his family. He cared about his kids more than anything. When he died, he was going to a basketball game with his kids. That's what he cared about. Tiger Woods now, look at his son. He's doing these golfing tournaments with his son. Who knows what
Just
he's
the
doing
way he
behind?
interacts with the
Exactly.
media is different too. How he
Exactly.
actually interacts with fans and he cares.
Exactly.
They start to realize, but they had such a lack of balance, and it was a huge correction from
Yeah.
God to say, "Hey, this is what
Yeah.
matters."
And it's important. Everybody learns on their own timeline. Like, one timeline's not better than the other, but I do think it is important to take advice from older people that have gone through those experiences and learn from them. Because if you just say, no, I'm going to learn it in my life, I don't need to take their experiences and learn from them, you're going to end up giving up a lot of those years because you just want to experience it and you think what you're doing is best. But ultimately, millions of people have done it before you. And so I think it's very important to read those books, listen to mentors, have people to build the foundation and personality that you are. And that's one thing, like with my grandparents, I've learned so much from them, my mom, everything. And so I try to take as much advice from them. I got plenty of mentors, who I'll call up. My old coach, he was a home builder. I'll call him and we talk a lot, and I'll ask him for life advice. I'll ask him for work advice, business advice. I'll ask him for anything. And I think it's very important to just kind of sit down and understand that what those people are telling you is super important. And it's even friendships like mine and yours. You learn from other people. You're telling me about a whole bunch of different people, what they tell you, and I'll tell you about what people have told me. And I think it's also important to learn from people that are your own age because they might not have those life experiences. They hear from other people that you might not be hearing from. And I think that's a awesome way to learn.
Yeah, it's always like I read the book of The Power of One More, and I
Yeah.
haven't read it for I think over a year and a half, but it talks about a lot of it's like the power of one more conversation, one more connection could actually change the whole direction of your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's like who's to say that one idea that I say that I like was talking to someone doesn't just, let's say you get into engineering or you're a realtor now, but whatever it is, that idea is the spark to lead you to sell your first home, and next thing you know, you can
Yeah.
become one of the most successful realtors. It's like
Exactly.
who's to say? And that's also some hope too, because someone could be having tough times. Maybe they're not looking at some stuff in a grateful light, but one change in a mindset
Yeah.
could change the whole direction of their life.
Oh
So
yeah.
just knowing that can kind of come at any time. And like you said, being a self-made person, I think there's too much emphasis on it these days, like being self-made. So I read a book called Be Useful by Arnold, and so he talked about how everyone would be like, Arnold, you're such a self-made man. You moved here to the United
Hmm.
States. You did bodybuilding. You did movies, and then pausing. He's like, I'm not self-made. He's like, I had someone sponsor me to come to America. He said, I had someone
Yeah.
help me get in the movie industry. I had politicians help me lead the way and be able to put the policies in place. He's like, I haven't done anything by myself. And that's where I think a lot of people, and I particularly, was like, I'm going to do this on my own.
Yeah.
And why would you ever do something on your own
Right.
when you have, this is literally the point of life, is to build the relationships and go through this with everyone else to ultimately reach, like, fulfill your purpose that
Yeah.
God's put you here to do. And so that was super cool. And like you said, books, like through 75 hard, I was able to start reading. I hate reading, or I hated reading because I was a slow
Right.
reader. And honestly, it just didn't stick
Yeah.
out to me. But I read, I think, 3 books to the completed them, and then 3 books I started, and I gained so much knowledge. And honestly, I can say that those were part of the reason I quit my job. Just the
Yeah.
knowledge I gained from those and leading me in a certain direction, and just being in Tampa, it's like opening my
Yeah.
eyes for how you can scale businesses,
Right.
how you can be an entrepreneur, and like you said, it's just really opening up your eyes, your ears, and what you take in. And what you take in is important because you got
Yeah.
to fill up with positive stuff, with books, with, and try to cut out the social media.
Yeah.
Social media is always going to be a thing, but if you can take in positive influences like different podcasts, different speakers versus like the brain rot or the negative, because it's
Right.
easy to get caught up in the negative
Yeah.
news, the negative.
Hmm.
There's so much of it out there.
Yeah.
So it's just focus. It's what you can control.
Yeah. And to speak on that, one thing I'm always super intrigued by is I guess I can call them the men who built America, Henry Ford, all of them, Vanderbilts. And one thing that always stuck out with me about Henry Ford, and I read this in a book, I'm honestly not sure which book it was, but it always said Henry Ford knew he was not the smartest person like of all time. But what he did is he knew how to get the right people in the room and put them around himself to create something that's bigger than he could ever do alone. And I was actually speaking with one of my friends last night. He's a mechanical engineer at Georgia Tech, Bo, and we started talking about Elon Musk. How this guy, started PayPal, sold that. Now he's in so many different companies, Tesla, SpaceX. He's not the smartest guy in the room when it comes to how to be a rocket scientist. He didn't go to school for that. But you know what? He knows how to run a business and put the right people in the room. He was able to land a rocket and return it from space on a moving pad in the ocean. That's just a mind-boggling thing to understand. But he could have never done that alone. He knew how to get the right people in the room, put the right people around him, like-minded people that are hungry and very they want to take that initiative and do something bigger than just themselves, because not one person can figure out something that big. And going back to Henry Ford, he didn't invent the car. He invented the way to mass produce a car. And it's just stuff like that where you can't, it's so hard to try to figure that out on your own. And that's why if you put a good team around you, a good friend group, and just a good group in general, it makes life a whole bunch easier just because you can build off each other's ideas.
Yeah, and a lot of people might look, and it's kind of, it's uncomfortable to build these relationships, and I don't mean like uncomfortable between you and the person, but you have to put yourself in
Yeah.
uncomfortable situations, and that's like, I literally moved to Tampa knowing nobody,
Yeah.
and so off the rip, it was like I didn't know anyone, but I knew, like, if I didn't meet people, if I didn't start surrounding myself with people that had the same values, foundations, it's like I was going to be lonely. I was going to kind of feel those effects down
Yeah.
there. So first time I went to a run club, I went there, and I just walked up to, it was a kind of a feeling of, I don't know, like, who do you talk to? People kind of already talking to people, and it was a bigger one,
Hmm.
so it didn't make it an emphasis to whatever. So I just walked up and I just started talking to people, and next thing you know, I met one person that the next week that I ended up that actually, well, I talked about in episode 1, but Rod, I met Rod, and once me and Rod met, we started meeting new people, and then we started growing community, and then I've just realized how just asking someone how their day is or something like that can spark a new relationship, spark a
Right.
new friendship, or just honestly, I was talking about this the other day with my uncle, how just being that difference in someone's lives, saying hi to someone could literally change someone's
Yeah.
direction of their day or opening the door. It's like, why not make these little gestures? And it's easy if you're having a little bit of a bad day to, like, pass that up, but you're like, I've had tough times. It's like I don't want people to feel that. And if they are in that, what would have happened if you just said hi or like made their day a
Yep.
little bit better?
100%. There's a story, I'm sure maybe you've heard this, and I might not be telling it exactly right, but I think it was in San Francisco at the Golden Gate Bridge. There was a guy walking along the sidewalk, and he was walking to jump off the bridge and commit suicide. Um, Not sure where I heard this story. It was a long time ago when I heard it, but somebody stopped him on the sidewalk and just asked him, "Hey, how are you doing? How's it going?" And he started having a conversation with him, and that conversation and that person just stopping and saying, "Hello, how are you doing?" made him think, okay, maybe life is better than going to this bridge and jumping off. And I think, like you said, that's so important. Just check up on people, make them feel that people are thinking about them, making sure that people want to know how they are actually doing, even if it's just a random person. It's always good to just ask somebody how they're doing and wanting to hear what they got going on in their life and being understanding and just being an ear, or even just a shoulder if they got to lean on. So,
Yeah. So I want to hear more. So you got obviously finishing school, engineering. What's in the future? I guess you're getting married probably in the next 2 years. Crazy. You got a lot of things coming up, but I
yeah,
want to hear kind of your five. Honestly, I like a 3 year outlook, like a 3 year
3 year.
outlook because I was in the book Rebel that I'm reading right now. It talks about how 10 years you're not even the same person, but 1 year is really not enough time to see significant life change. So 3 years from now, where do you want to be? What does an ideal like? I walk up to him like, "Yo, Parker, like you've had like how are your last 3 years?
Yeah.
It's been the best 3 years of my life.
Yeah.
What's that look like?"
So, like you said, looking at a wedding, I guess Lauren and I are probably planning around spring 2026. So maybe like a year and a half. So I'll definitely be married. We'll be starting out our life because I'll graduate December 2025. In school right now, I'm just trying to finish the degree. I think that's something like not overextending myself. I really want to focus on that in the spring semester and then next fall semester. And I got an internship in the summer, just kind of taking it all in, learning. Um, and then I'll be in my
Where
career
is
once I
that?
graduate. That's Kimley Horn.
Okay, I don't know if you told me about this yet.
I didn't tell you
Maybe.
this, maybe not.
Where
Yeah,
is it?
I
Is
haven't
it here
told
in
my other
Georgia?
job either.
Well,
Yeah,
hopefully I don't see this.
yeah.
But
It's at right by Avalon, and
okay.
so
Oh, sweet.
yeah, so they reached out to me. I wanted to work for them this last summer, but they only had an opportunity in Savannah. I didn't want to go to Savannah, so they actually called me at the end of the summer. Reached out to them. I talked to them a little bit. Sounds like the perfect setup for me. I'm doing civil engineering, but specifically it's the design services team. I really want to development services team. Ultimately, I've always said at the end of my career, I really want to be a developer. I think that's just something that I strive to want to do. That's the things that I enjoy. That's the things I like. And I think from an engineering standpoint, that will be best for me to meet the connections I need to maybe break into that industry. It will also give me the right background to kind of learn the engineering behind it and
Mm.
everything that goes into it. And I think in the next 3 years, honestly, I just want to kind of be able to say that I'm learning a lot and I'm progressing, and every day I'm waking up and I'm still striving to be at that end goal. Because 3 years, it's a short period of time when you look in an entire lifetime, but 3 years is important. Like we were talking about, I want to make sure that I'm learning and I'm not just going through the motions, and I'm not just saying, yeah, I got a job. It's just one of those jobs. I think it's super important to make sure you know where you're going. So in 3 years, honestly, what I would tell you is I'm following my plan and I'm working every day to be at where I want to be. I think that's the biggest thing in 3 years, and not just settling saying, yeah, I'm in a job, I'm married, probably having kids in a few years. I don't ever want to get to that point. And it's kind of like Matthew McConaughey said. I don't know if you've ever seen in the Emmys, like who's your hero?
Oh yeah.
It's yeah, it's gonna be me in 5 years, and then the last 5 years, who's your hero now? It's gonna be me in another 5 years. And I think that's the biggest thing is I always want to make sure I kind of see myself in that light. So at the end of 3 years, I want to tell you that I'm going after my goals and I'm becoming the person I want to be in another 3 years. And I think that's the biggest thing. I wouldn't say I have any super set goals, which I probably will once I get more out of school. But right now, I think it's kind of hard to try to foresee my life once I get that degree and I'm done and I'm into my career.
Yeah, because school sometimes it feels like if you're going to class, it's hard to set goals because you're smart. It's like if I'm getting good grades in my classes, you're working part time, you're saving up money, you're hitting the gym every once in a while. It's like you're doing more than 99.9% of people. So that's kind of like what I found myself when I was at
Yeah.
school, so I think it is important to get some goals out and maybe even just like write them down, because I hadn't done that for years
Right.
before college. So it's good to maybe get something down on paper, or maybe
Right.
even just like you and Lauren, now that you're engaged, getting some like goals together, sitting down
Yeah.
or something like that, some brainstorming, because it's huge. And I found that after writing down goals, and I have a whiteboard now with all my goals plastered. I'm actually going to be rewriting kind of some goals to redirect them in the
Yeah.
new part of my life that I'm going a new chapter. And so, but yeah, they're right where I see them every single
Yeah. That's
day,
awesome.
and it's just it's been super cool. One thing I wanted to talk about too is kind of talking about how you're going to work every day and you're going with kind of a drive to do it, and it's you get to do it, right. You're working towards something you always like. And when I was finishing up working at this corporate world, there was always the common phrase, and I just wanted to bring this up because it bothers me so much. You would ask someone like, "How's your day going?" "Oh, living the dream." Every time I heard that, dude, I got to the point where if I heard that, I just wanted to bang my head against the wall, because
Living the dream.
it was
Yeah.
just a bunch of people in this corporate world who a lot weren't acting as themselves. They acted different in the world to conform to the
Hmm.
politics, the this, the that, and they were just living the dream. And it was like they kind of just had accepted that life wasn't going to give them the fruits that they wanted. And I just couldn't hear that anymore. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's just like you said, it's you're going in day out, and when you're young, you're probably going to be working those long hours. But knowing that you're going to be the hero, and that maybe 5 years from now you're running your own engineering company, or I don't even know how like the
Yeah.
engineering industry works, but you're going in with drive. And how's your day going? Well, it's amazing. I'm doing what I've like prayed for,
Yeah. For
So
sure.
having that is huge. But yeah, dude, I'm excited to hear it. And this won't be the only time you'll be on the podcast. So we'll be, as I've told you, we'll have a
Yeah.
full studio set up. I'm hoping in about a year
Yeah.
from now.
It's
But for
awesome.
now, the podcast, as I addressed on episode 1, a podcast is just a conversation between people that brings out values, brings out ideas, and honestly, when someone's listening, it can provide them value.
Yeah. For
And
sure.
so it doesn't matter the equipment, what comes with it. I kind of want to show that to people. You can kind of do whatever, and you don't have to have the top notch equipment. It doesn't have to be a super laid out studio. Just it's just the conversation and the
Yeah.
value you can provide. And honestly, just this conversation alone, I think has provided, I can say on my side, me value and
Yeah.
things we've
For
never
sure.
talked about. Is like friends, dude.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Any last remarks before we go?
I think you hit the nail on the head. Just being able to sit down, have a conversation, like you said, some topics we haven't even talked about. I think it's great to be able to just bounce ideas off each other. And honestly, I'm looking forward to being able to do this again because it's awesome. Good experience.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to have you on soon. But that wraps up episode 2. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Peace.